The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like angry wasps as I adjusted my laptop one last time. 43 years old, and I was still trying to prove myself to a room full of suits who probably couldn't wire a light switch if their lives depended on it. But here I was, Mike Bowen, owner of Bowen Electrical Contractors, about to pitch my biggest client yet, my own wife's tech company. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, clicking to my first slide, I'm here to show you how proper electrical infrastructure can save Dataflow Solutions over $200,000 annually. The boardroom was sterile, all glass and chrome, nothing like the honest dirt and copper wire of my world. Erica sat at the head of the table in her power suit, blonde hair pulled back in that severe bun she wore when she wanted to intimidate people. Next to her, Gavin Price, her cousin and chief operating officer, scrolled through his phone like he had somewhere better to be. Our current electrical grid, I continued, is operating at 60% efficiency due to outdated... Jesus Christ, Mike! Erica's voice cut through the room like a blade. Can you speak English? These people don't need a technical manual. A few chuckles rippled around the table. I felt my jaw tighten, but pressed on. What I'm saying is, your electrical bills are through the roof because you're boring them to death, Gavin muttered, not looking up from his phone. 3 minutes. I'd been presenting for exactly 3 minutes when Erica stood up, walked over to my setup, and yanked the power cord from my laptop. The screen went black. I can't listen to this crap any longer, she announced to the room. You're embarrassing my company. The silence that followed was deafening. A few board members smirked. Others whispered behind their hands. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, but I didn't move. Didn't say a word. Just started packing up my laptop, slow and steady, like I was defusing a bomb. Mike, Erica said, her voice dripping with fake concern, maybe you should stick to fixing broken outlets in people's basements. More laughter. Gavin finally looked up from his phone, grinning like he'd just watched someone slip on a banana peel. I zipped up my laptop bag, tucked my presentation materials under my arm, and headed for the door. As I reached for the handle, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Leave the room, she's about to learn a lesson. I paused, glanced back at Erica's smug face, and walked out without a word. The hallway outside the boardroom stretched endlessly in both directions, all polished marble and motivational posters about synergy and innovation. I was halfway to the elevator when I heard shouting from behind the closed boardroom door. The elevator dinged open, and out stepped Harold Granger, CEO of Dataflow's parent company. He was a small man with steel gray hair and eyes like a shark. Mr. Bowen, he said, extending his hand, I apologize for missing your presentation. I was caught up in a rather unpleasant phone call with our insurance company. No problem, Mr. Granger. I'm afraid it was cut short anyway. His smile was razor thin. Yes, I heard. Tell me, how long have you been married to Mrs. Bowen? 18 years this fall. And in all that time, has she ever mentioned her educational background to you? I frowned. She has an MBA from Northwestern. Why? Interesting. Granger pulled out his phone and showed me a document. Because Northwestern has no record of an Erica Bowen ever attending their business school. The shouting from the boardroom was getting louder now. I could hear Erica's voice, high and defensive, cutting through the chaos. Mr. Bowen, Granger continued, I'm afraid your wife has been operating under false credentials for the past 5 years. We're conducting a full audit of her department, effective immediately. The boardroom door burst open. Erica stumbled out, her face flushed, her perfect hair disheveled. When she saw me standing there with Granger, her eyes went wide. Mike, I can explain. No need, Granger interrupted. Mr. Bowen, I'd like to discuss that electrical contract with you. Perhaps we could meet tomorrow morning? Without any interruptions this time. I shook his hand. I'd be honored, sir. As Granger walked away, Erica grabbed my arm. Mike, please, you don't understand. I can fix this. I looked down at her manicured fingers digging into my jacket sleeve. Erica, I've been understanding for 18 years. I think it's time you started explaining. That evening, I sat in my garage workshop, surrounded by the familiar smell of motor oil and the comfortable chaos of tools and spare parts. This was my sanctuary, the place where things made sense. Unlike my marriage, apparently. The garage door was open, letting in the cool September air. Our neighbor, Mrs. Feldman, was walking her ancient poodle and trying very hard to look like she wasn't eavesdropping on the shouting match coming from inside our house. Told you it was a misunderstanding. Erica's voice carried through the thin walls. The HR department made a mistake in my file. For 5 years? That was Gavin's voice. Erica, they're auditing everything. The salary discrepancies, the expense reports, all of it. I took a long pull from my beer and went back to rewiring the old radio on my workbench. Sometimes the best way to understand a complicated problem was to strip it down to its basic components and start over. My phone rang. Tony Mendez, my best friend since high school and owner of Mendez Boxing Gym. Hey, Tony. Mike, buddy, you sound like someone ran over your dog. What's going on? I told him about the presentation, about Granger, about the fake MBA. Tony listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. So let me get this straight, he said finally. Your wife of 18 years has been lying about her education, probably embezzling money, and she humiliated you in front of a boardroom full of people? That about covers it. And what are you doing about it? Drinking beer and fixing a radio. Mike, you're a good man. Too good. You know what your problem is? You let people walk all over you because you think being decent means being a doormat. Tony, no. Listen to me. Remember in high school when Billy Hutchins kept stealing your lunch money? What happened when you finally stood up to him? I smiled despite myself. He backed down like the coward he was? Exactly. Sometimes decent people have to get their hands dirty. Not illegal dirty, just creative. The shouting from inside the house had stopped. I heard the front door slam, then Erica's BMW roaring to life in the driveway. Tony, I gotta go. My wife just left, and I have a feeling she's not coming back tonight. Call me tomorrow. We need to talk strategy. I hung up and walked to the window. Erica's taillights disappeared around the corner, heading toward downtown. Toward Gavin's expensive condo, most likely. My phone buzzed with a text from my daughter Jessica away at college. Dad, Mom called crying. She says you're trying to ruin her career. What's going on? I stared at the message for a long time before typing back, ask your mother about Northwestern University. Then ask her about the truth. An hour later, Jessica called. Dad, I don't understand. Mom's story keeps changing. First she said it was a clerical error, then she said she had to lie because of gender discrimination, then she hung up on me. Jess, I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this. Are you getting divorced? The question hung in the air like smoke. I don't know, sweetheart. I honestly don't know. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet garage, surrounded by the tools of my trade. Honest tools that did exactly what they were designed to do. No lies, no deception, just function following form. That's when I noticed Erica's laptop bag sitting on the shelf where she'd left it that morning. She'd been in such a hurry to get to work that she'd grabbed the wrong bag. I opened it, not sure what I was looking for. Inside were financial documents, printouts of emails, and a USB drive labeled personal. The emails were between Erica and Gavin, but they weren't about business. They were about hotel reservations, romantic dinners, and weekend getaways. The financial documents showed expense account charges for restaurants and hotels that I'd never been to. But it was the USB drive that really opened my eyes. Video files, dozens of them, all featuring Erica and Gavin in various stages of undress and intimacy. Some were recent, but others were dated from over 2 years ago. I sat back in my chair, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The fake MBA was just the tip of the iceberg. My wife had been living a double life, and I'd been too trusting, too decent, too naive to see it. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Bowen, this is Detective Sarah Walsh with the Fraud Division. We'd like to speak with you about your wife's financial activities at Dataflow Solutions. Detective, I think you're going to find this conversation very interesting. The next morning, I met Detective Walsh at a diner downtown, away from prying eyes and gossiping neighbors. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with the kind of no-nonsense demeanor that comes from years of dealing with liars and thieves. Mr. Bowen, we've been investigating irregularities at Dataflow for the past 6 months, she said, sliding a manila folder across the table. Your wife's department has been flagged for unusual expense patterns and unauthorized salary adjustments. I opened the folder. Bank statements, credit card receipts, hotel bills, all painting a picture of systematic fraud spanning 3 years. The thing is, Detective Walsh continued, we need someone on the inside to help us understand the full scope of the operation. Someone who knows the players involved. You think Gavin is involved too? Mr. Price has been co-signing expense reports and approving budget transfers that directly benefited him and your wife. We're talking about potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. I studied the documents, my electrician's mind automatically looking for patterns and connections. Detective, what exactly are you asking me to do? Nothing illegal. Just keep your eyes open. If your wife tries to destroy evidence or flee, we need to know. I thought about the USB drives sitting in my garage, the videos that could destroy both their careers and their reputations. What if I told you I already have evidence? Her eyes sharpened. What kind of evidence? An hour later, Detective Walsh left the diner with copies of everything I'd found. The original USB drive stayed with me. Insurance, she called it. I drove to Tony's gym, needing to hit something before I did something stupid. The gym was in an old brick building downtown, all exposed pipes and punching bags hanging from thick chains. It smelled like sweat and determination. You look like heck, Tony said, wrapping my hands for the heavy bag. I feel worse than I look. I told him about the detective, about the evidence, about the videos. Tony listened while adjusting the speed bag, his weathered face growing darker with each detail. So what's the plan? He asked finally. I don't have a plan. I just want this nightmare to be over. Mike, listen to me. You're thinking like a victim instead of thinking like a fighter. Your wife and her cousin have been screwing you over for years, stealing money, making you look like a fool. You think they're going to just roll over and confess? I started working the heavy bag, my frustrations pouring out through my fists. Left jab, right cross, left hook. The rhythm was hypnotic, therapeutic. They're going to try to destroy you, Tony continued. They're going to say you're bitter, jealous, making things up. They're going to turn your daughter against you, poison your reputation, maybe even try to frame you for their crimes. Right cross, left hook, right uppercut. The bag swayed under the assault. So what do you suggest? We get them first, legally, publicly, and permanently. That afternoon, I got a call from Jessica. She was crying. Dad, Mom says you're working with the police to frame her. She says you planted evidence on her computer. Jess, did she tell you about the fake MBA? She says that's not important right now. She says you're trying to send her to prison because you're jealous of her success. I closed my eyes, feeling the knife twist in my gut. Sweetheart, I would never lie to you. Not about something like this. I don't know who to believe anymore. After she hung up, I sat in my truck outside the gym, watching the late afternoon traffic crawl by. Erica was already working to turn my own daughter against me. She was playing chess while I was still trying to figure out the rules. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off or you'll regret it. I showed the message to Tony when I went back inside. That's either your wife or her cousin trying to intimidate you, he said, which means they're scared or they're dangerous. Mike, these are white-collar criminals, not gangsters. They fight with lawyers and accountants, not tools and baseball bats. As if to prove him wrong, my truck's windshield was spiderwebbed with cracks when I came out an hour later. A brick sat on the hood with a note tied to it. Last warning. I called Detective Walsh. Mr. Bowen, we can file a report, but without witnesses or camera footage, there's not much we can do. However, this does show they're getting desperate. What does that mean for me? It means you need to be careful, and it means we need to move faster than we planned. That evening, I sat in my garage again, but this time I wasn't alone. Tony had brought over his nephew, Carlos, a tech-savvy kid who worked in computer security. Mr. Bowen, Carlos said, studying the USB drive, these video files have metadata that shows when and where they were created. Some of these were filmed in company offices on company time. Can you enhance the background details? I want to make sure we can identify the locations. Already done. Look at this. He pointed to his laptop screen. That's definitely the executive conference room at Dataflow. And this one was taken in what looks like a hotel room, but you can see part of a receipt on the nightstand. Tony leaned over his shoulder. Can you read what's on the receipt? Hotel Meridian, downtown. And look at the date. This was taken during the company's annual shareholders meeting last year. I felt a cold satisfaction settling in my chest. So while I was home taking care of our daughter during her flu, my wife was playing house with her cousin at a 5-star hotel, charging it to the company. Gets better, Carlos said, clicking to another file. This email thread shows them planning these trips months in advance, coordinating their expense reports to hide the costs. My phone rang. Erica, Mike, we need to talk. I'm listening, not over the phone. Meet me at Rosario's in an hour. Come alone. Rosario's was an upscale Italian place downtown. the kind of restaurant where Erica liked to be seen. I arrived 15 minutes early and took a table in the back where I could watch the entrance. She walked in wearing a black dress that probably cost more than most people's rent, her hair and makeup perfect despite the stress of the past few days. She'd always been beautiful, and she knew how to use it as a tool. "You look tired," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "I've had better weeks. Mike, I know you're angry, but we can work this out. We've been together 18 years. That has to count for something." It did count for something, until I found out you've been lying to me for at least 3 of those years. Her composure cracked slightly. The MBA thing was stupid, I know, but I was trying to build a better life for us, for Jessica. I needed the credibility to get ahead. And the hotel receipts? The expense account fraud? Was that for Jessica too? She looked away. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the photos Carlos had enhanced. Her face went white. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter? Erica, you've been stealing from your own company while having an affair with your cousin. Even by your standards, that's impressively sleazy." Gavin and I... It's complicated. No, it's really not. You're married to me and you're sleeping with him. That's not complicated. That's adultery. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Mike, if you turn over that evidence, you'll destroy more than just my career. You'll destroy Jessica's future. Do you want your daughter to grow up knowing her mother is in prison? I want my daughter to grow up knowing the difference between right and wrong, something she apparently didn't learn from her mother." Erica's mask finally slipped completely. "You self-righteous bastard. You think you're so much better than me? You're nothing but a glorified handyman who peaked in high school. Maybe, but I'm an honest, glorified handyman. That's more than you can say." She stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "This isn't over, Mike. You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Actually, I think I do. You're a fraud and a thief who's about to face the consequences of her actions. The only question is whether you take Gavin down with you." She stormed out, leaving me alone with my untouched wine and a growing sense that things were about to get much worse before they got better. The next morning, I woke up to find my business van vandalized. All 4 tires slashed, windows broken, and "Liar" spray-painted across the side in red letters. Mrs. Feldman was standing in her yard, clutching her poodle and staring at the damage. "Mike, I called the police," she said. "I saw a black BMW drive by around 3 in the morning, but I couldn't see the license plate." I thanked her and called my insurance company, then Detective Walsh. She arrived 20 minutes later with a crime scene photographer. "This is escalating quickly," she said, examining the spray paint. "We need to accelerate our timeline." "What does that mean?" "It means we're going to arrest your wife and Mr. Price tomorrow morning. We have enough evidence for fraud charges, and this vandalism shows they're willing to commit additional crimes to cover their tracks." I felt a mixture of relief and dread. "What do you need me to do?" "Nothing. Stay away from both of them. Don't answer any calls or texts, and let us handle it from here." But Erica and Gavin had other plans. That afternoon, while I was at a job site rewiring an old office building, I got a call from Jessica. She was sobbing. "Dad, Mom says you've been having an affair. She says she has proof." "Jessica, that's not true. Your mother is lying. She showed me pictures, Dad, pictures of you with some woman at a hotel." I felt the world tilt sideways. "What pictures?" "You and some blonde woman going into a hotel room together. Mom says it's been going on for months." I knew immediately what had happened. The photos were real, but they weren't what they seemed. 6 months ago, I'd helped my client, Mrs. Patterson, move her elderly mother into an assisted living facility. The hotel was actually the facility, and Mrs. Patterson was a 60-year-old widow who needed help carrying her mother's belongings. "Jess, those pictures are fake. Or rather, they're real pictures taken out of context." "Mom says you'd say that." "Listen to me. Ask your mother about the video files on her laptop. Ask her about the Hotel Meridian receipts. Ask her about Northwestern University." I can't deal with this anymore. I'm coming home." "Jessica, no. Stay at school. This will all be over soon." But she'd already hung up. An hour later, Tony called. "Mike, you need to get down to the gym right now." "Why? What's wrong?" "Just get here and bring that USB drive." I found Tony in his office with 3 men I didn't recognize. They were wearing expensive suits and had the kind of predatory smiles that made my skin crawl. "Mr. Bowen," the tallest one said, "my name is Richard Stone. I represent Mrs. Bowen and Mr. Price. We'd like to discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Oh, but we do. He placed a manila envelope on Tony's desk. Inside this envelope are photographs of you accepting cash payments from various clients over the past 2 years. Payments that don't appear on any tax returns. I opened the envelope. The photos were real. I had accepted cash payments from several clients who preferred to avoid the paper trail. It was a common practice in my business, and while technically tax evasion, it was minor compared to what Erica and Gavin had done. Those payments total approximately $47,000, Stone continued. The IRS takes a very dim view of unreported income. What do you want? The USB drive and any copies you've made. In return, these photos disappear, and my clients are willing to overlook your creative accounting practices. Tony stepped forward. Get the heck out of my gym. Mr. Mendez, I wouldn't be so hasty. Your business license could also come under scrutiny. Amazing what a thorough audit can uncover. I looked at the photos again, then at Tony's worried face. These people were playing hardball, and they were better at it than I was. I need time to think about it. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, these photos go to the IRS and the state licensing board. After they left, Tony and I sat in his office, staring at the envelope. Mike, they've got us over a barrel. No, they don't. I pulled out my phone and called Detective Walsh. Detective, I need to meet with you right now, and I think you're going to want to add extortion to those charges. An hour later, I was wearing a wire and walking into the lobby of Dataflow Solutions. Stone and his associates were waiting in the same conference room where Erica had humiliated me just 4 days earlier. Mr. Bowen, I trust you've made the right decision. I have. I placed a USB drive on the table. Everything's on there. Stone examined the drive, then nodded to one of his associates, who plugged it into a laptop. Excellent. And the copies? There are no copies. Mr. Bowen, we're not idiots. In today's digital age, there are always copies. You're right. There are always copies. I smiled and touched the wire, hidden under my shirt. Detective Walsh, did you get all that? The conference room door burst open. Detective Walsh and 3 uniformed officers flooded in, tools drawn. Richard Stone, you're under arrest for extortion and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. As they handcuffed Stone and his associates, I felt a savage satisfaction. But it was short-lived. Through the conference room's glass walls, I could see Erica and Gavin being led away in handcuffs by more officers. Erica looked directly at me as they walked past. Her expression wasn't anger or fear. It was pure hatred. The local news picked up the story that evening. Tech executive and COO arrested in fraud scheme was the headline, complete with footage of Erica and Gavin doing the perp walk in handcuffs. I was in my garage, finally fixing that radio, when Jessica called, Dad, I saw the news. Is it true? Which part? All of it. The fake MBA, the stolen money, the affair. I set down my soldering iron and rubbed my eyes. Yes, Jess. It's all true. And the pictures Mom showed me, those were taken out of context. I was helping a client move her mother into assisted living. Your mother knew that, but she twisted it to make me look guilty. Jessica was quiet for a long time. Dad, I'm sorry, I should have trusted you. You're not responsible for your mother's choices, sweetheart. What happens now? I don't know. The lawyers will sort out the legal stuff. We'll figure out the rest as we go. But I did know what happened next, at least in the short term. Erica and Gavin made bail the next morning, and by that afternoon they were both at my front door. I opened it to find them standing on my porch like a pair of well-dressed vultures. Erica had traded her power suits for jeans and a sweater, trying to look vulnerable and sympathetic. Gavin wore a tracksuit and sunglasses like he was trying to hide from the world. Mike, we need to talk, Erica said. I think you said everything you needed to say when you hired those lawyers to threaten me. That wasn't our idea, Gavin said. Stone went rogue. We just wanted to protect ourselves. By committing more crimes? We're family, Erica said. 18 years of marriage has to count for something. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I was seeing her clearly for the first time in years. The desperation in her eyes, the calculated vulnerability in her posture, the way she positioned herself to catch the light from the porch lamp, it was all performance. You're right, I said. 18 years does count for something. It counts for 18 years of lies, manipulation, and betrayal. It counts for making me feel like I wasn't good enough, smart enough, Successful enough. It counts for turning my own daughter against me. Mike, I'm not finished. It counts for stealing money that could have paid for Jessica's college without loans. It counts for humiliating me in front of a room full of people who respected me. And it counts for showing me exactly who you really are. Gavin stepped forward. Look, Mike, we can make this right. We'll pay back the money, You'll what? Fix my marriage, undo 3 years of fraud, bring back my reputation? My reputation? Erica laughed bitterly. You're a small-town electrician who never amounted to anything. What reputation? And there it was. The truth she'd been hiding behind fake smiles and condescending encouragement for years. You know what, Erica? You're absolutely right. I'm just a small-town electrician, but I'm an honest small-town electrician. And when this is all over, I'll still be able to look at myself in the mirror. We're going to fight this, Gavin said. We have good lawyers and we'll beat these charges. Maybe you will. But even if you do, everyone in this town knows what you are now. Everyone at Dataflow, everyone at the country club, everyone at Jessica's school, they all know you're thieves and liars. I started to close the door, then stopped. Oh, and Erica, I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, and I'm going to make sure Jessica knows the truth about everything, including the videos. The color drained from her face. You wouldn't. Try me. I closed the door and locked it, then watched through the peephole as they stood on my porch, arguing in heated whispers. Finally, they got in Gavin's car and drove away. My phone rang. Tony. Mike, turn on Channel 7. You're going to want to see this. I grabbed the remote and flipped to the local news. A reporter was standing outside Dataflow's headquarters. Sources close to the investigation say the fraud may have involved as much as $500,000 over 3 years. The company's board of directors held an emergency meeting this afternoon and announced that both Bowen and Price have been terminated, effective immediately. The story continued with interviews from Dataflow employees, most of whom expressed shock and disappointment, but a few were more candid. Erica always acted like she was better than everyone else, said one woman I recognized from the accounting department. Now we know why she could afford those designer clothes and expensive cars. Gavin was a bully, said another employee. He used his position to intimidate people and cover up his mistakes. I'm glad he's gone. I turned off the TV and sat in the quiet of my living room. For the first time in days, I felt something approaching peace. The trial took 8 months. During that time, I rebuilt my business, repaired my relationship with Jessica, and slowly pieced together a new life from the wreckage of my marriage. Erica and Gavin hired the best lawyers money could buy, but the evidence was overwhelming. The videos, the financial records, the email trails, it all painted a picture of systematic fraud and betrayal that no amount of legal maneuvering could explain away. The prosecution offered them a plea deal. 5 years probation, full restitution, and community service in exchange for guilty pleas. Gavin took it immediately. Erica held out until the last minute, convinced she could charm a jury into believing her sob story about gender discrimination and workplace pressure. She was wrong. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 3 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 18 months. I was in the courtroom when the verdict was read. Erica looked back at me once as they led her away in handcuffs. This time, there was no hatred in her eyes, just a kind of hollow defeat. Jessica squeezed my hand. Dad, is it over? Yeah, sweetheart, it's over. But it wasn't, not really. The hardest part came later when I had to explain to Jessica why her mother had made the choices she did, why people sometimes choose money and status over love and family, why the world isn't always fair or just. Do you hate her? Jessica asked one evening as we sat in the garage, working on restoring an old Mustang I'd bought at auction. No, I said and realized I meant it. I hate what she did, and I hate how she did it, but I don't hate her. Hate takes too much energy, and I'd rather spend that energy on building something good. Like this car? Like this car, like my business, like our relationship. Jessica smiled and went back to sanding the rust off the fender. Dad, yeah, I'm proud of you, for standing up to them, for telling the truth, for not letting them destroy you. I'm proud of you too, Jess, for choosing the right side, even when it was hard. 6 months after the trial ended, I got a letter from Erica in prison. She wanted to see Jessica, wanted to explain her side of the story, wanted another chance to manipulate the narrative in her favor. I showed the letter to Jessica, who read it twice before handing it back. What do you think? I asked. I think she still doesn't understand what she did wrong, Jessica said. And I think I'm not ready to see her yet. Maybe someday, but not now. That's your choice to make. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you ever regret turning her in? Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd just kept quiet? I thought about it for a moment, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink through the open garage door. No, I said finally. The truth was going to come out eventually, it always does. I just made sure it came out on my terms instead of theirs. And you're okay with how it ended? Jess, 18 months ago, I was married to a woman who didn't respect me, working for people who looked down on me and living a life built on lies. Now I'm running a successful business. I have a great relationship with my daughter, and I sleep well at night knowing I did the right thing. So you're happy. I looked around the garage, at the tools that had always been honest with me, at the daughter who chose truth over comfort, at the life I'd built from the ashes of my marriage. Yeah, I said, I'm happy. 2 years later, I was standing in the same Dataflow conference room where Erica had humiliated me. But this time the circumstances were very different. Harold Granger had asked me to present my proposal for rewiring the entire corporate campus, a project worth over $2 million in the Bowen, Granger said as I finished my presentation. Your proposal is comprehensive, cost-effective, and exactly what we need. When can you start? Monday morning, sir. The board members around the table nodded approvingly. These were some of the same people who had witnessed my humiliation 2 years earlier, but now they looked at me with respect and admiration. After the meeting, Granger walked me to the elevator. Mike, I want you to know that your integrity during the investigation didn't go unnoticed. It takes courage to do what you did. I just did what was right, Mr. Granger. Exactly, and that's why you're the kind of person we want to do business with. As I drove home, I thought about how much had changed. My business was thriving with more work than I could handle. Jessica was in her senior year of college, majoring in criminal justice and planning to become a prosecutor. And I had started dating Sarah Walsh, the detective who had helped bring Erica and Gavin to justice. Sarah was everything Erica wasn't, honest, straightforward, and genuinely interested in who I was rather than who she thought I should be. We'd been taking things slowly, both of us cautious about jumping into anything serious, but I could see a future with her. That evening, Jessica called from school. Dad, I saw the news about the Dataflow contract. Congratulations. Thanks, sweetheart. It's going to keep me busy for the next year. Good. You deserve success after everything you've been through. Jess, I got another letter from your mother yesterday. Jessica was quiet for a moment. What did she say? She's getting out in 3 months. She wants to see you. And it's still your choice. But she's your mother, and she's going to be part of your life whether we like it or not. Maybe it's time to at least have a conversation. Will you be there? If you want me to be. I think I'm ready. But I want to meet her somewhere neutral. Not at home, not at the prison, somewhere public. That sounds reasonable? 3 months later, the three of us met at a coffee shop downtown. Erica looked older, thinner, and somehow smaller than I remembered. Prison had stripped away the designer clothes and professional makeup, revealing the person underneath. Jessica, she said, reaching across the table to take our daughter's hand. I know I hurt you. I know I hurt both of you. I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. Mom, why did you do it? The money, the lying, the affair? Why? Erica looked down at her hands. I was scared. Scared of not being good enough, scared of being found out, scared of losing everything I'd worked for. So I made bad choices, and then I made worse choices to cover up the bad ones. You had a family who loved you, Jessica said. Wasn't that enough? It should have been, but I was so focused on what I didn't have that I couldn't see what I did have. And by the time I realized what I was losing, it was too late. We talked for 2 hours. Erica apologized, Jessica asked questions, and I mostly listened. It wasn't a reconciliation, too much had happened for that, but it was a beginning of sorts. As we prepared to leave, Erica turned to me. Mike, I know you have every reason to hate me. I told you before, Erica, I don't hate you. I heard you're seeing someone. I am. Are you happy? I thought about Sarah, about the easy way we talked, about how she laughed at my jokes and respected my work and never made me feel like I needed to be someone else. Yeah, I'm happy. Erica nodded. Good. You deserve to be happy. As Jessica and I walked to our cars, she put her arm around my shoulders. Dad, are you okay? That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Your mother is part of your history, and you needed to make peace with that. What about you? Did you make peace with it? I looked back at the coffee shop where Erica was still sitting at our table, staring out the window at the life she'd lost. Yeah, Jess. I think I did. 5 years after the trial, I was back in that same garage where this whole story began. But everything was different now. The radio I'd been fixing that first night was playing classic rock from the corner. Sarah was helping Jessica restore the Mustang we'd been working on for years. And I was putting the finishing touches on a custom electrical system for Tony's new gym expansion. Mike, Sarah called from under the hood of the Mustang, can you hand me that socket wrench? I passed her the tool and watched as she and Jessica worked together to install the new alternator. Sarah had become the mother figure Jessica had needed, not trying to replace Erica, but filling the void she'd left behind. Dad, Jessica said, wiping grease from her hands, I got the job. Which job? The prosecutor's office. I start next month. I felt a surge of pride. Jessica had graduated summa cum laude and turned down offers from prestigious law firms to work in the district attorney's office, prosecuting white-collar criminals. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Your first case? Actually, it's kind of ironic. I'm going to be working on a case involving embezzlement at a tech startup. The CEO has been stealing from the company for years, using fake credentials to get the job. Some things never change. No, but some things do. This time, the good guys are going to win from the beginning. That evening, after Sarah and Jessica had gone home, I sat in my garage with a beer and looked around at the life I'd built. The business was more successful than I'd ever imagined. My relationship with Jessica was stronger than ever. Sarah and I were talking about marriage. Even my relationship with Erica had evolved into something resembling civility for Jessica's sake. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Bowen, this is Detective Martinez with the Fraud Division. We're investigating irregularities at Meridian Financial, and your name came up as someone who might be able to help us understand some electrical work that was done at their offices. I smiled. Some things really never did change. Detective, I'd be happy to help, but I should probably mention that my daughter is a prosecutor with the DA's office, and my girlfriend is Detective Sarah Walsh. We're kind of a law enforcement family these days. Even better. Can you meet us tomorrow morning? Absolutely. As I hung up the phone, I thought about how strange life was. 5 years ago, I'd been a naive electrician married to a criminal. Now, I was a successful businessman, dating a detective and father to a prosecutor. The skills were the same. I still wired buildings and fixed electrical problems, but everything else had changed. I finished my beer and turned off the garage lights. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new cases, new opportunities to stand up for what was right. But tonight, I was content to sit in the darkness and appreciate how far I'd come. The radio in the corner was playing an old song by the Eagles, Take It Easy. The lyrics seemed appropriate. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. Sometimes the best thing you can do is trust yourself, tell the truth, and let the consequences fall where they may. It might not always be easy, but it's always right. And in the end, being right is more important than being comfortable. I locked up the garage and walked toward the house, where Sarah was waiting for me with a cup of coffee and a smile. Behind me, the radio continued playing, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear the sound of my own wheels, steady and sure, carrying me toward whatever came next.